You want to get picture books for your classroom, but they are so expensive. Don't worry, they don't have to be. Let's find out how. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to chat with you about ways that you can build your classroom library on a budget. You want to have lots of books in your classroom for your students, but that can get really expensive. I remember when I got my first teaching job, I was so excited. I went to Barnes & Noble and I picked out a bunch of books that I wanted, got to the register, and it was a lot of money. Put a lot of those books back. So over the years, I've come up with a few different ways that you can build your classroom library so that your students have lots of books to choose from without spending a lot of money on it. Let's check out some of those. The first way to buy books for your classroom for cheap is my favorite way. One, because it's the cheapest. And two, it usually has the biggest selection. So I like to find used book sales. If you go to booksalefinder.com, I'll leave that link in the description below, you can find where there are book sales in your area where they're selling books for really cheap. So a majority of these books are used. A lot of the book sales that I have gone to are at my local library. They are selling books that the library no longer uses. People donate books to the library to resell and to raise money for the library, which is awesome because not only are you buying books for your classroom, but you're supporting your local library as well. The books are usually 25 cents, sometimes as expensive as 50 cents, but for the most part, the children's books are 25 cents. That's paperback, hardcover books, chapter books, picture books, brand new books sometimes are only 25 cents. It's amazing. I walk out with bags and bags of books, more than I can carry. Sometimes I go back for round two. You do have to keep in mind when you go to one of these book sales that you can't go in looking for a specific book. You have to go in thinking, I'm gonna buy some books to get for my classroom library. Or they're not gonna have exactly what you're looking for if you're looking for a specific book. They're just going to have a wide variety of books to choose from. And it varies. Sometimes I go to these book sales and they have very limited selection for kids. Sometimes there's tons, and I have to tell myself to leave a few behind. Oftentimes, the libraries that I go to, they'll have these book sales probably around 2 times a year. The ones that I go to are in the fall or the spring. Like I said, use that website, the booksalefinder.com, and it will tell you exactly when the dates are for the book sales in your area. The second way that I get books for cheap for my classroom is very similar to the book sales, but yard sales. Visit local yard sales around your town. And oftentimes you'll see families selling their children's books because their children have grown up and they don't use those books anymore. I went to a yard sale once. There was a huge collection of hardcover books. There must have been 20 books. I bartered a little bit with the people that were selling the books, and I think I got them for about $10. It was an entire set, and I put them right into my library. They looked brand new because only one child had used them, not an entire library's worth. So I highly recommend that you check out local yard sales. You might want to look at the description of the yard sale ahead of time. Sometimes they'll tell you there's children's books, and sometimes if it doesn't say anything about that, you might want to skip that one. The third way that you can get books for your classroom for cheap and even books for your classroom for free, what's better than free? Are these guys. That's right, Scholastic book orders. They are amazing if you can really use them to your potential. I could go into a whole video on how you can get the most out of your Scholastic book order. If that's something that you'd be interested in, leave me a comment below that just says book order, and I will film another video on how you can get the most out of a Scholastic book order. Scholastic book orders are awesome. If you haven't used them before in your classroom, I highly recommend them. You pass out flyers to your students, they order books, and the more books they order, the more points that you earn, and with those points, you can get free books for your classroom. And they have a huge selection. Additionally, besides the free books that you can get, which are great, each month the Scholastic book order has monthly specials. They have the dollar book of the month. Sometimes you can get a free book with your order. Sometimes you can get a class set, but really use the Scholastic book orders to build up your classroom library. Another place that you can get books for a lot cheaper are thrift stores. So we have one near me, it's called Savers. I don't know if those are all around the country or not, but the one near me is called Savers. They have a full book selection, used books people drop off that they no longer need in their house anymore. At mine, they have a whole wall of children's books that range from babies hardcover books all the way up through chapter books. And they have adult books as well, but we're focused on your classroom library right now. This is similar to the used book sales and the yard sales in that you can't go in looking for a specific book. You're also probably not going to find brand new books, but for the most part, a lot of them are in good shape because they were used by 1 or 2 kids in a household. You can find lots of great books. Oftentimes I've gone in and I've found 2 or 3 copies of the same book, which are great if I'm doing book clubs or if I have kids that want to read the same book at the same time. So it's really great to build up that collection. They're usually, say around 30 cents. I think I can get 3 for $1 at mine. And they also do sales as well. Buy 3, get 1 free. So really pay attention to that and see how many free ones you can earn with that as well. Another great way to get books for your classroom. I also like to use another website called bookoutlet.com. On this website, they're not as cheap as the previous things that I've mentioned, but they are brand new books and they have a wide selection. So you can go in looking for a specific book. They don't have everything, but they do have quite a few. The books are much cheaper than you would find at Barnes & Noble or even Target or any other place that you buy books, but not as cheap as you find them. They're usually about 50 to 75% off, which is still great. An example of a book that I got from bookoutlet.com is Honey Smoke. It was originally $17.99. but I got it for $7.35. Score. But the other good thing is that you can earn points similar to Scholastic, and you can use those points to get free books. And if this is still too much money, but you're looking for read-alouds for your classroom, always use your local library. That's a great place. You won't be able to build your classroom library like that, but if you're just looking for read-aloud books, visit your local library, visit your school library, ask your colleagues to borrow books that you can use to switch things up if you're just getting started and really looking for high-quality read-aloud books for your classroom. And I want to leave you with one important tip, a mistake that I made. When I first started looking for books for my classroom. I went to these book sales, the thrift store, everything, and I got so excited that I could get so many books for such a small amount of money that I bought them all. I bought so many books, and I realized after a while that having too many books was a problem as well. I had books that maybe weren't in the best shape. I had books that my students really weren't interested in. So this is a word of caution. When you go to a used book sale, when you go to the thrift store, when you go to a yard sale, really pay attention to which books would be best for your classroom library and for your students. Because if you have too many books in your classroom library or they're not great quality books, your students aren't going to want to visit the classroom library, and that's not what we want at all. So really pay attention to that when you are buying books for your classroom. If any of the tips in this video were helpful for you, make sure you give it a thumbs up. As always, make sure you subscribe to my channel because I will be back next Sunday night with more tips and tricks for reading aloud in your classroom. Have a great week.